Thank you so much for being here. Obviously, that trial date falling in March 25th is right in the middle of the campaign season. You know, it's not easy to prepare for a trial. It takes a lot of time. Is there a concern that it's going to cut into his campaigning?
Absolutely. I mean, it has to cut into his campaigning. And his opinion is that's by design. I think we've seen with a lot of the cases, and as we spoke about, I handle a lot of New York cases. There's been this same theme where his cases seem to get fast-tracked, and there's concern that that's intentional. I'd like to think as a lawyer that I trust the judicial system and that people can be impartial, but I've seen that sometimes that doesn't always happen, and we never want politics to get into the courtroom, right? So I think it's unfair that it's in the middle of election season. I would like to see him get through whatever he needs to get through as the leading candidate for the GOP and then move forward.
And the judge seemed to acknowledge that yesterday. I mean, he spent most of that hearing talking about what Trump can and cannot publicly say about this, especially as they are starting to get the evidence that the prosecutors have here. Is he going to abide by that protective order?
Absolutely. You know, President Trump has always abided by any order. He's never been sanctioned by a judge for not listening to the rules. And myself, having been his attorney on numerous cases, I can tell you that he respects the court's orders. Does he think that he's always being treated fairly? No, absolutely not. Do I think so? No, absolutely not. But he does not have no respect for the law. He respects the law. He respects the judges. But he wants to see fairness come back to this country.
But he's been attacking the judge, in this case, the one who was essentially explaining to him what his rights are yesterday, Judge Juan Merchan. Is he going to lay off the attacks on that judge now going forward?
You know, I think you have to put yourself in his shoes, right? He is not only a human being, a citizen, he's a political candidate that has a reputation as not just a real estate tycoon, but an incredible president and also a politician. So when you see these judges that somehow get the same cases, you can't think that's a coincidence. Merchan had the Weisselberg case, and that was a very unfair case, in my opinion. That was something that if you were John Doe, maybe you would have just gotten a slap on the wrist, paid a fine, and moved on. Somehow he gets Merchan again. You can't help but think that there is something going on there. So I think my client is right to be angry. I think that he has a First Amendment right to speak, just like you do, just like I do. And he's going to use it to the extent he can within the court's order.
Within the court's order is an important part of that. I mean, he's referred to him as this Trump-hating judge with no evidence that he is a Trump-hating judge. But this comes as E. Jean Carroll and her lawsuit, which is separate from this, but I should note, following the CNN town hall and the comments that Trump made about her there, is now amending that lawsuit to add more money to that. Is there not a concern within the legal team that what he says is what's getting him in more trouble here, that he's going and attacking her the day after, you know, he's found guilty that he's found civilly liable for defaming her and sexually abusing her?
So let's talk about that. I'm glad you brought it up. As a candidate, part of your job, and as a president, part of your job is to address people that bring claims, as Bill Clinton had to address, right? He didn't do this. So we have the court say, and now we have a jury that said he did not rape her. Let's not forget that. And he is then speaking to a person who is falsely accusing him of something that is heinous. And nobody is more sympathetic than I am to sexual assault victims, rape victims. But I'm confused on how a jury could have gotten it so wrong. They say you don't rape someone, but it's sexual abuse, and then you defame somebody for saying, I didn't rape her, when they said he didn't, and they found he didn't. So the fact that she's going to amend it, to be honest with you, Caitlin, and this is aside from my sympathy to real victims, tells me what her motives are. And the fact that she's trying to amend a complaint from 2018 because she wants to change the terms from rape to sexual assault now, you're not allowed to retrofit cases. That's not how this goes. And I can't agree with it. I'm going to fight it vehemently. And I think it's wrong. And I think he has a right to say, it's wrong, I didn't do it, and what she's doing is wrong. And it's a shame to real victims. Honestly, it's a shame to real victims.
It's civilly liable for sexual abuse. But the idea that he's found that he defamed her and then he goes out the next day and continues to attack her, not just simply defending himself. He's going after her, calling it a con job, a hoax. Those were the comments he had made online. I mean, is there not advice in the legal team that talking about it more only hurts him more, is clearly evident here? He's
a public person, and he has a right to speak, especially when somebody says publicly, and she did the same, and frankly, she went on TV and said, he raped me. Well, that's, to me, the most offensive thing you could possibly say. I know Donald Trump very well, and you know Donald Trump. He is a kind person. Whatever he projects when he's angry, he's a candidate being attacked. He's under siege at all times. This is a man who only knows how to operate and has operated this country amazingly well under siege at all times. And I think he's outraged, and he has a right to be, and he has a First Amendment right to speak and say to somebody, this is a lie. I didn't do it. And if somebody's going to keep suing him, we're just going to fight back as well.
Well, that's his defense, but it was a jury of 9 people that found him civilly liable of this. But I want to ask you about this new letter that...
But before you go there, if that's our litmus test, we have a New York jury, then you must also believe that O.J. Simpson wasn't guilty. I mean, sometimes the juries get it wrong. And here they did get it right that he didn't rape her. But somehow he defames her when he says, I didn't rape her. It doesn't make sense. And we'll take it up on appeal.
Well, I know you're appealing it, but they did find him civilly liable. I mean, it's a jury of 9 people. I believe it was 6 women,
right.
3 men that found this. But I want to talk about this letter from 2 other attorneys on the former president's legal team that they sent last night, or they sent yesterday, requesting a meeting with the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, to talk about the special counsel's investigation. I'm assuming it's the documents investigation. Do they want to meet with the Attorney General, or do they want to meet with the special counsel, Jack Smith, here?
I'm not part of that team, so I'm actually not sure what the intent was there. I have no idea.
The assumption is that it means they believe they could be prepared to have an indictment.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to assume. I'll tell you one thing. What I've seen with the weaponization in the justice system, what I've seen with what came out with the Durham report, what came out with something that I personally litigated, and I've seen this, and we can't deny the facts that there is a dual system of justice. There's a little bit of, not a little bit, there's a lot of selective prosecution, and I can't speak to that case in particular, but I can tell you as his attorney, as somebody who does see how he's treated differently than a lot of my other clients, and I have other high-profile clients, I don't see this. So whatever it is, on any of these cases, I think the theme is that we need to clean up the justice system. We need to clean up politically motivated judges. And we need to say, okay, there's a court system in place, there's a justice system in place to protect the American people. And I know that that's what Donald Trump wants to do, to come in, clean it up, and get this back to the right track. Because you and I being able to sit here today is exactly what the country wants. They want to see us be able to be on different sides of the coin, disagree, but at the end of the day, nobody should be treated differently than anybody else. And I think that he is.
Yeah, well, I would say I'm a neutral party in this. But when it comes to the documents, and there is also a special counsel investigating Biden's documents as well. So when you argue there's a dual system of justice here, that's from Attorney General Merrick Garland, who appointed that as well. Is there a sense inside the legal team that something has happened that prompted the ask for this meeting?
I truly, when I tell you I'm not on that case, my hands are full up here with Letitia James and some of my other lawsuits. But
so no sense from your end of whether this means that the Trump legal team believes that the special counsel's investigation pertaining to the documents is coming to an end?
No, I have no sense. My knowledge is the same as you, unfortunately. I have no inside baseball knowledge on that.
I want to ask you about something else that's happening inside the Trump legal team, because Tim Parlatore, who was a member of it, just recently departed. He cited internal issues, saying it didn't have anything to do with the investigation. He sat down with CNN's Paula Reed, and this is how he explained why he left.
The real reason is because there are certain individuals that made defending the president much harder than it needed to be. In particular, there's one individual who works for him, Boris Epstein, who had really done everything he could to try to block us, to prevent us from doing what we could to defend the president. In my opinion, he was not very honest with us or with the client on certain things. There were certain things like the searches that he had attempted to interfere with.
What's your sense what was your reaction to what Tim Parlatore said there?
I thought that was very unprofessional. I think that as anybody in a workplace, you have type A personalities. We're all lawyers, and not everybody's always going to get along. I think that was a last claim to fame. He had exited, and he had been in a very high-profile position. And I can tell you that we've seen this happen time and time again. People leave Trump world, and they try and come out with stories, their last hurrah, for instance. And I don't agree with it. I was disappointed by what he said. I don't know that to be the case. And I think that was quite honestly, very unprofessional.
You said you don't agree with it, so you don't have any. Do you have any interactions with Boris or anything like
Of
that where he
course.
was interfering in searches?
Oh, no. I mean, first of all, I'm not involved in any of that, but I can tell you that Boris is a confidant and somebody who works with PAC and is doing his job like everybody else. And again, people are just not always going to get along in any job. I'm sure there's people here that you don't get along with, but if that was the case, I think that was ridiculous and an inappropriate kind of butthurt move, to say the least.
Does the infighting on the legal team affect the defenses of your client?
I have never seen infighting. I get along.
You've never seen infighting on
Not
the
in
legal
my
team?
legal team. No, my team, we get along great. We're friends, and honestly, we're all in it together, and we all have different opinions, and we peacefully and correctly go at it to try and figure out what the best legal strategy is for the president. That's what lawyers do. So no, I'm sorry, I haven't seen that, but
Clearly, among some members, there is. Alina Habba, thank you for your time this morning.